In general, people don't spend a lot of time thinking about death. Often that's a good thing because you don't want to walk through life contemplating your mortality. But death doesn't always belong at the bottom of our subconscious. Taking time to consider death rituals in different cultures as well as our own need not be a gruesome task. So we are going to take a light-hearted look at funeral practices all over the world in this series, and we are going to start right here in the UK. So the word death itself sounds quite final. We associate death with horror movies as we shout at the screens to the girl in her white Victorian sheer nightdress who is running up the stairs to hide from the monster who's going to suck her innocent life from her body. As an aside, why do they do that? Run upstairs. There's nowhere to go. Run out the door screaming. Anyway, I digress. So, we think of dead bodies as empty vessels of our loved ones. Even the use of the term dead body allows us to separate the person from the body. They are no longer Aunt Jean, but it become Aunt Jean's remains or Aunt Jean's body. We tell ourselves that Aunt Jean is no longer there and they have gone to whichever place you believe they go. So, what do we do with our dead here in the UK? Well, in the UK we are lucky enough to celebrate vast multicultural societies. So each faith group will have different funerary practices. So, for the purpose of this video, let's just go with traditional British funerary traditions. The step up for lip, the cup of tea and cucumber sandwiches after kind of funeral. So funerary practices in Britain begin with the declaration of death, which may be lay or official, and may take the form of a small attentions to the body, such as closing the eyes or covering the face. The body is then positioned and laid out for family members. If the family member died at home, they are laid in bed, or if people don't want them at home, the funeral directors will come, collect the body and lay it out for viewing at the funeral home. The laying out of the body is sometimes referred to as rendering the last offices. Some people believe that once a person has died, they should be laid out on a bed and, if possible, left for an hour with the window ajar. This is supposed to allow the spirit to leave the body peacefully and quietly of its own accord. But a great deal has changed in the funeral practices in the 20th century here in Britain, and the meanings attached to them have since diminished. The eyes are closed straight after death, as it is the first place on the body where rigor mortis sets in, so that's why the eyes are closed. The body is usually removed from the place of death within a couple of hours of death occurring. Well, come on, we need to be able to make the tea for the floods of mourners, and a dead body will just get in the way. I'm kidding, of course. There's cake too. So, we usually leave it to the funeral home staff to wash and dress our loved ones and make them presentable for viewing. This is a big change over the past 100 years, as it used to be traditionally done by women, often the local midwife. It involves undressing and washing the body, plugging its orifices, and if necessary placing coins, traditionally pennies, on the eyelids and a bandage under the chin to hold these parts closed. Dressing the body in its grave clothes and holding limbs straight. These were usually done with bandages or ribbons around the body at the elbows, wrists and ankles, and sometimes a thread around the big toes, ready for placing into the coffin. Nowadays, we supply the clothes for them to be dressed in, and off Great Uncle Norman goes in the back of a big black private ambulance until we see him in his Sunday best at an allotted appointment time at the funeral home. There is also a tradition in the UK of publishing obituary notices in local or national newspapers when a loved one has passed away. So, over people's breakfast, they can announce to their partners when they're reading the paper that Frank from number 10 has died, and the partner can exclaim, "Who's Frank? You know Frank, he's the one that always wore the cap and had the stick. Oh, he was a lovely man. They never even ever spoke to him. Anyway, these announcements usually include the funeral details as well. This gives distant friends and relatives, those that never bothered with them when they were alive, the chance to make arrangements and to attend the funeral. And this is where you find out who those people who never bothered with them were, as some relative will announce, "I don't know why they're here," in a loud whisper. Funerals are often a place for our family feuds to erupt. So the best possible outcome would be for these people to send flowers. There are no laws preventing the public from attending funerals in the UK unless the family has requested a private intimate service for friends and family only. It is also traditional to wear black smart clothing to a funeral. Traditionally, black has been associated with mourning due to its connotations of being respectful. However, today some people ask funeral guests to dress in colours other than black. This is often the case at children's funeral, that the parents will ask guests to wear their loved one's favourite colour. So today the traditional funeral procession is still popular. The coffin and funeral flowers are carried in the hearse at the front of the procession. The immediate family of the deceased usually follows in a posh black car or limousine. Now this is where all the action happens, because this is where the family close ranks and the lines are drawn in the sand. Because if George and Rita attends, they shall be asked to leave in no uncertain terms. However, they are never asked to leave, but us British people will, however, write a strongly worded Facebook post about how certain people had the gall to walk in and pretend to be all sad, and we never say who they are. Anyway, traditionally, the funeral directors would lead the cortege on foot. This ritual was called paging away. While it is less common today, some people still include this ritual in the funeral procession. But the pager, the funeral director, usually walks only a short distance before getting into the hearse. Probably health and safety or something. Now, this tradition dates back to the days when the horse and carriages were the primary mode of transportation. Walking in front of the hearse slowly allowed neighbours and passers-by to be nosy, to stop and pay their respects. Men would remove their hats and all would bow their heads. Now, the funeral flowers play an important role in British funerals, providing beauty and comfort at a time of sadness. Many people also believe that flowers symbolise the continuation of life. I don't know why, because they soon die, flowers do. Anyway, although many people choose funeral flowers based on the favourite flower of their loved ones, others choose flowers based on their connotations and meanings. If you're a guest at a funeral, it is better to make a donation than to give flowers. Close relatives and friends have usually sorted out the flowers beforehand. These go in the hearse with the deceased. In the UK, the flower that is most commonly associated with funeral services is the lily. The white lily is often seen as a symbol of the reclaim of innocence for the deceased person. These also symbolise sympathy and purity. Another popular type of funeral flower is the carnation, because they are cheap. Again, I'm kidding. Kinda. Carnations are widely available in various different colours. Each have their own meaning. So the red carnation stands for admiration, pink carnations are for remembrance, and white carnations stand for love and innocence. So it wasn't so long ago that there was really only one type of funeral in the UK. The majority of funerals followed a very similar form. This was a church service with traditional music and hymns followed by a burial or cremation. There might have been variations in the service depending on your faith. So let's go back to the procession. Now where's it going? So in Victorian England it would have been church and then graveyard. Now I shall do another video on the history of funerals in Britain, so watch out. Today, British society is more diverse than ever and funeral formats have evolved significantly. From the dress code, to the music, to the venue, to the vehicle, to the type of funeral you have is now dictated much less by tradition than it used to be. Most funeral services in the UK are still traditionally faith-based and held in a place of worship and led by religious officials. Christianity still remains the biggest religion in the UK, and whether a burial or cremation, the comfort of the church buildings, soberly dressed mourners and well-loved hymns can help loved ones say goodbye. As a result of our society's diversity, some people seek a multi-faith funeral service where religion and spirituality are incorporated into the service rather than representing them within one faith, but rather recognising them as a whole. Now, the humanist ceremony is growing in Britain today, and these are funerals that are for people who have no religion or does not want a religious ceremony. As a rule, these are a more personal service that is focused on celebrating life, and it can include listening to your favourite music, talking about you, all the funny stuff you've done, etc., etc. Now, this task of writing and conducting the service is usually done with the family and friends, as they're the ones that know you better. However, if it is believed that this may be difficult, or you may not have any volunteers, you can employ a celebrant or officiant who specialises in preparing and conducting funeral services where there are no ties to religion. And many people nowadays like to plan their own funerals or let loved ones know what they want and what they prefer. Now, cremations are becoming very popular, and many people are now choosing a service called From Fridge to Fire. They don't want a service or celebration. They just want a cremation. This can be due to costs and not wanting to saddle the family with the burden of paying for a funeral. Now, funerals are a multi-million-pound industry, and many people don't know that you don't actually need a funeral service to bury or cremate your loved ones. You can actually do it and arrange it all yourself. But that's for a different video. Woodland burials are growing in popularity now, and this is where you are wrapped in a cotton sheet or put in a wicker basket and buried in the woods amongst the trees. A wake in the UK is a funeral reception. This is where close friends and family of the deceased gather together to pay their respects to their loved ones. Now, we know traditionally a wake used to be before the funeral, and in some places it still is, and usually with the casket present. However, in Britain nowadays it's usually held after the funeral or memorial service. Now, the wake is where the tea and cucumber sandwiches appear. People condole each other, bitch about each other, and in general mix with people they will have nothing to do with afterwards. Now, on a serious note, the wake usually marks the end of the mourning period, and life tends to go back to normal. I find that this is when the loved ones that are left behind really tend to grieve. So be kind to those after the funeral and check in with them, because this is when real life without their significant others really hits home.